the sluggo. Slant and go.
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
If you're going to ruin this show by doing research,
Notre Dame.
My dentist is a Notre Dame grad.
Definitely smells.
Casey, the Beef Cregan, you are live from Charleston, South Carolina, somewhere?
I'm actually in Defusky Island.
Defusky Island, okay.
Yeah, I was in Charleston earlier today, but I am in Defusky Island, South Carolina, live and in the flesh. And here, it's a little chillier than I anticipated, but it's really nice. So it's good to see you. You're rocking the shirts. I didn't pack a good shirt for this, but I'm rocking my Villanova soccer sweatshirt.
Hey, that's okay. It looks appropriate for the weather. And I'm sitting here in Central Texas, and usually we would, I'm wearing short sleeves, but we're getting a kind of northeast out there. It's in the 40s, and the wind is blowing and the rain's coming down. So my internet might crap out, but we'll go as far as we can go. I mean, somebody's craps out every week, it seems like. So,
Yeah, it seems to be the nature of the beast. We'll see if mine holds tonight. We don't know. You never know.
We don't know. We have no idea. Hey, before we get started talking about the playoff games and everything going on the website, I wanted to once again remind everybody, eventually this show and the podcast are going to be part of the College Sports Network, and that's college with a K. And Casey is currently running the Sidelines Clem, Sidelines _, let's forget the underscore, Sidelines _Clem Twitter account, and you're doing a good job of getting everybody riled up, Beef. What's happening over there on those two things?
It's a great website. It's been a lot of fun. Like I said last week, it's been a lot more live tweeting some games, which is different. I don't watch them the same way that I live tweet them. I have to be a little bit professional on the site. It's a great group of guys and gals that are running all sorts of colleges from all over the country. It's just a lot of fun, and it's part of that College Sports Network that you spoke about. This is under, quote, new management, so I really like the vision of some of these guys that are in grad school, and even some college kids, and even some older guys than me that are involved, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and like I said last week, I'm going to do some unique things and some stuff that's really just about Clemson and stuff that maybe you don't see elsewhere. I just have to figure out what that part is. But it's, like I said, a lot of fun, a lot of information. I do have 2 articles that are going to come out within the next couple weeks. Some simple stuff just to get my creative juices rolling. Maybe a year in review kind of thing, and God willing, if they win this week, maybe a preview of the national championship. So some simple stuff, but great things coming to Sidelines Sports. I wish I could change that name, Sidelines _Clem. It's not necessarily something that people will, search for, I guess, but we'll figure that out.
All right.
Hello to Kevron.
Kevron's checking in from Cope. You're up to 1,150 or so followers now. So everybody follow Casey at Sidelines _Clem. And while you're following Casey there, don't forget about Casey's, as I call it, Casey's side chick, or it's main chick. I never can get it straight. I don't know which one's which, but the Chop and Beef show, how's things going over there?
Very good. We're going very good. Very, very good. That's good English. That's about on brand for the Chop and Beef show. No, it's going well. We have a lot of really good, loyal listeners. Of course, trying to grow the brand a little bit. Like I said, and always say, it's a lot different than this show. We take the seatbelt off a little bit and the training wheels, and we use some adult language, and we don't necessarily, we're not going to give you X's and O's, but we're going to give you a fun show. So maybe that could be my tagline for going forward. We're not going to give you the X's and O's, but we're going to have fun doing it. So we tell stories. We have a lot of fun. It's like the guys at the bar.
Not X's and O's, but sometimes triple X, right? Occasionally, there's some interesting.
We have some characters on that show.
Interesting top-ups, and definitely some interesting characters. Hey, I talked about the Geek Pick'em on the Facebook group. Now, we had 6 times this year. We had people go 5-0. None of them were named Marty, Beef, or Locks. But we had 6 times. There were actually 4 guys because Brandon Rink from TigerNet won it twice, and I forget the other guy.
Cameron? Carson
won it twice, and I think your buddy Chad Yarber had a perfect week, and there was one other guy. So there's 6 people, 4 names. 2 of them will get 2 entries, Brandon and Carson, and the other guys will get 1 entry each, and I'll do a random drawing, and I'll do that tomorrow on New Year's Eve, so somebody can start out the new year knowing they got a free T-shirt for going undefeated, a Sluggo T-shirt. Sorry, you'll be the first. No, I guess Nelson's got his, but our first giveaway. And speaking of picks, it's that time where we call in the master of the picks, a guy who has not had a perfect record, but his name is Locks, so he's got to know something. So let's bring in. There he is. The perfect intro for Locks. Locks, how's it going, man?
Master? Did you use the word master?
Master Lock. Master Lock.
Opposite of that, like the tiny little lock that you put on your suitcase. It's about that big. That's me, man. Yeah. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. How about you?
Good. Almost Happy New Year for everyone, right?
Yeah. We're just talking about somebody's going to have a Happy New Year. They're going to get a free T-shirt because they went undefeated in a week, and it wasn't me, it wasn't him, and it wasn't him. So maybe somebody else should do the picks next. Oh, and speaking of next year's picks, so for everybody out there, we're going to do things. We've been talking about it internally, externally, between the 3 of us about doing things different next year. We've got a reason our picks are so crappy, and that's because we're picking games we don't want to pick, right? So we thought maybe we do it like I think the Cover 3 podcast guys do on their Locks pod. They choose the games they want to choose, and so you can choose 3 to 5 games every week, whatever. So I don't have to choose the same games that we choose. Locks chooses. Obviously, there'll be some crossover, big games, Clemson games, stuff. But we're thinking about next year doing something different where we can pick whatever games we want to that week. All right, guys, guess what I got? I got a little graphic here. This one, the first one, well, it's not so bad for me in Locks. Now this is reviewing. Remember way back in the preseason, we only thought there were going to be 3 conferences, so we only picked 3: the ACC, the SEC, and what am I?
Big 12.
The Big 12. Thanks, Case. And so here's what we picked, guys. Locks nailed it. Clemson, Oklahoma, Bama. I did too. Casey went a little bit out in the field. However, we'll give Casey a lot of credit. Texas A&M was not as ridiculous as it sounded in August. Actually turned out to be not a bad pick. And Oklahoma State looks like they had a shot at the beginning also. The playoff teams, Locks nailed this. 75% nailed it. Clemson, Bama, and Notre Dame, which who thought at the beginning of the year besides Locks that Clemson and Notre Dame would both be in the playoffs? So you nailed it. You won that one, Locks. Now, Beef, here's where I have a little beef. And you went with Clemson, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, and Florida. Florida wasn't a terrible pick. They just, where would they be without those 3 losses? I went with Clemson, Bama, Oklahoma, and Georgia. I went pretty safe, and I'm paying for it now. Our championship team, all of us picked Clemson, so we're still alive, and I guess we can revisit that in Saturday for one, and maybe after that also. So good job by Locks. I think Locks overall had the best picks there. Beef, I know you took some chances, and I went safe. So
I would do it again. I would do it again next year. I'm going to take some chances, but it's nice that some of those chances, those rolls of the dice, actually turned out to be like, they had a chance, for 3 weeks.
Not bad.
I want to throw this out one more time because it's might be the last time that I can say it. There's still one more prediction out there that Clemson and Notre Dame are going to play 3 times in the season. That might happen still.
We're going to call you Lockstradamus if that happens.
If that happens, that'd be great. But yeah, it's still out there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it.
You'll be bigger than this show if that happens. I mean, that's not saying much. But if that happens, you'll be bigger than this show. All right. I also decided Wednesday to not end our little contest after last week's championship games. Here's our standings right here, and Locks is one game behind me, and Casey had a couple of good weeks there, Locks. There's 3 games left, and he theoretically, if you and I missed every one, he could still he could tie me, I guess, is the best he could do. So, but Casey's coming on lately, so we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, 3 games left, so Locks could certainly pass me there. So you still have hope. So I wanted you to still have hope and make this a lot.
Thanks.
I mean, about this, you don't have hope about a lot of stuff. You have to have hope about something. All right, that's pretty fun. Locke, did you notice my shirt?
I did. I saw that. Sugarland.
And Alyssa, it's for you.
Check it in.
It's for Ann Alyssa.
Very cool.
Yeah, she loves it. All right, here we go. Let's pull up the graphic for the picks if I can get to the right place again. And here we go. Okay, guys, here's what we're looking at. Notre Dame is getting 20 points against Alabama. The over/under is 65.5, 65.5 for other people that say it the right way. That implies a score of around 43-23. That sounds kind of weird to me. Ohio State is still getting 7.5 points. Versus Clemson, over under 66.5. That works out to around 37-30 if you round it up right. And that did not change, by the way, with the news about Tony Elliott. It did not change. It's the same. And there's Anna Alyssa. She's checking in. And
we're glad she's here.
We are glad she's here. This shirt, actually, I'm wearing this shirt just for her. All right, discussion. Notre Dame, Alabama. Locks, let's start with you. Is there a path to victory for the Irish? Is there a way that Notre Dame can win this game?
Yes, there is.
COVID?
It's very COVID. Something happened real soon here. It's the same game plan when they beat Clemson. Run the ball until your face turns blue and control the clock and get turnovers. 3 turnovers versus Clemson. That's the only formula that I see that could keep them in the game. They may still not even win because Alabama has quite the explosive offense. I mean, their last 5 games, they're averaging 52.8 points per game. And that's the lowest point spread. The lowest points they score is 42. They're really going to have to really control the ball. Notre Dame will. And Ian Book also has to just play a perfect game again, which he did versus Clemson. So that's the only path that I see. And I don't know if they have it. We'll see, though.
Beef? Notre Dame do it?
I'm going to agree a little bit with Locks there in that. Sorry for the talk, but we haven't done that a lot in this show. Anyway, so I agree completely. Notre Dame has had those long, drawn-out, 15-play, 8-minute drives that just eat you up against the teams in the past. They did it against North Carolina. I believe they did. It might not have been 8 minutes, but it was a long one against Clemson. That was 11 plays. There's ways to do it. And like Locke said, run the football with Kieran Williams, that big offensive line. Notre Dame's already beaten a defense that is a lot like what Alabama has shown this year, that people can score on them. So Notre Dame has already proven that they are able to score and at least keep up in that particular game against Clemson, be able to win the game. Run the ball with Kieran Williams. Use Kenny McKinley on the outs, the Skoronski. He's going to catch the ball if you throw up to his big 6'7" frame. Michael Mayer, the tight end, is dynamic at times and can absolutely keep those chains moving. And Ian Book is going to be Ian Book. I guarantee it. So he's going to get around. If they don't call a holding call on Notre Dame, they're going to be in good shape. I think Ann Alyssa might have a really good night on Saturday.
Okay. Here's my devil's advocate. Can Notre Dame stop Alabama enough to outscore them, whether that's 28, 35, 42, 45, whatever. Zach, what you got? You think Notre Dame, can they stop them enough to outscore them?
For water.
Vodka.
I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't. And unless something changes, and Ian Book, I think a big thing is like Trevor Lawrence has to run the ball. Ian Book's gonna have to run the ball as well. Add that extra layer of ball control too, long drawn out drives, like you said. But I just don't think that it's going to be a keep away for the offense, and then the defense is somehow going to have to hold and cause turnovers. But I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to get away from them, and I don't think it's just Notre Dame. I think it's about everybody. Alabama's really, really good.
All right.
Yeah, I was hoping. I was hoping. I did it to you twice now. I'm sorry. I was hoping you were going to lead into the next question that we had on here about the point spread. But
we will. We'll
then I agree with Locks again, and that doesn't make for a good show. But all in my mind when I was looking over the notes this evening, I had Virginia Tech's game plan against Clemson. Right, it was boring, man. It was get in the huddle, break the huddle at 20 seconds, get lined up, have a little bit of movement, and you're not snapping the ball until 4, on the play clock. And it was awful. And then they would get a first down, and it was apply, rinse, repeat. And it was just like it was the most boring football game in the world especially for us biased Clemson people that like to watch the up-tempo and see Trevor on the field for a lot of the game. That is in my mind what Notre Dame is going to have to do, because there's no way in heck they're gonna stop. The DBs on Notre Dame are really suspect, and I think we saw that last week against Clemson. And you get those frisbee catching dogs on Alabama coming to town, could be a long night. They're really going to have to control the ball to have any luck.
So what you're saying is if Kieran Williams breaks one for like 85 yards, he should stop at the 1. And then they should kneel twice or 3 times and go for it on 4th down, right? I think it's going to be tough. And if you believe, and we saw that in the ACC championship game, if you believe that Notre Dame's defensive backs are suspect, the last team you probably want to see is Alabama. Well, there's a lot of reasons Alabama's the last team you want to see. But if your defensive backs are suspect, man, could be a long day. And this will lead into our pick. And we'll go against the point spread. Beef, you have the honor, as it seems like happens every week, at least this year. You have the honor of going first. The point spread is 20. I put an 18 or 20 on our sheet because it was an 18.5. It's now at 20 consensus. Who you got, Beef?
That's fine. With all the stuff, flowery things I was saying about Notre Dame, I don't think they keep it close. But I picked Notre Dame in my head before the show, so I still don't think they keep it close, but I think it's a 17-point game rather than over 20. So I'm actually going to pick Notre Dame.
You're going to pick Notre Dame. Locks, you're up, bud.
I tried, Casey, too. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the math. I'm just looking at how they played lately. They're hot. They're all the Heisman hype. He got the wide receivers, the quarterback, your system quarterback that you hate. I mean, he's playing great football. He just is. I got Alabama 55-21.
55-21 for Locks, Mr.
Line
Locks.
it up, baby.
Alabama.
Yeah.
I showed the implied score a little while ago, and it said 43-23. That doesn't seem like enough for Alabama for me. 45-52. They could probably name their score. Think about it. Clemson put 34 points on Notre Dame without really trying for most of the second half, right? They were just kind of, running out the clock. Look, ho-hum. We'll just run the ball or throw a short pass. Can Notre Dame get 20 points? Yeah. I'm right on the same page as Locks. And we only got 2 games, so there's probably not going to be a lot of disagreement, though. I'm interested to see what you guys think about the next game. So I'm going to take Alabama because while I think Notre Dame has an opportunity if they play like Casey said they needed to play, certainly they could hold it under 20 points. But if I'm going to be wrong, it's not because I'm going to bet against Nick Saban in Alabama. Casey's the one here who likes to take chances. I'm a little bit older, more conservative, get off my lawn. And so I'm going to take Alabama here in Alabama also. So beef is on Notre Dame. Locks and I are on the Crimson Tide. Clemson and Ohio State. Okay, guys, a little bit different format tonight because we only have 2 games to talk about. So I wanted to kind of drag this one out a bit for a lot of reasons. Obviously, all 3 Clemson fans spent a lot of times in the library, not much of it studying, but we spent a lot of time there. Keys to the victory. What are Clemson's keys to the victory? Beef, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I think the news today about Tony Elliott is something that we don't know what that is going to look like, right? We don't have any idea what a Brandon Streeter-led offense will be. So that's going to be something that we need to think about. But my keys to victory are, like they did a little bit last week, they more used the pass to open up the run. And once the run game was going, the floodgates were open. And I didn't hear anybody in Twitterverse or on message boards this week talking about how bad the offensive line was after last week's game. So I think that, recipe, use Amari on the short passes to open him up for maybe a deep ball late. Use Cornell Powell late because, late deep. Use the tight ends. This game really sets up for a lot of over the middle being open because you're going to have those 2 guys on the outside, Cornell Powell, the Amari Rodgers, and E.J. Williams even over the slot. It's going to open up the middle of the field, I believe, and that's where they really have to take advantage of Ohio State on defense. And we really need to get ETN going. It worked last week. He looked dynamic. That 4th and 2 play was one of my absolute favorite plays of his ever, and it was just a simple toss sweep. So things like that need to be open. I think that's the key, and no turnovers, right? And hopefully BT has a typical BT game, which is weird to say, which is usually good. And when we need to kick the ball, it's an old Chad Morris thing, end every series with a kick, whether it be a field goal, an extra point, or a punt. And hoping Spires has a good night too, because he can be a weapon and has been this season, which we hadn't seen in his previous years.
All right, Locks, what you got?
To your point about Tony Elliott being out, I'm glad it's at least, it's today. It's not earlier in the week or whatever. I'm sure the game plan's in place. They probably already have the script for the first series choreographed. Everybody has that memorized in their head, because they're traveling now, or they're already there. I don't even know. But I imagine a lot of that's already laid out. So I don't think while it is a big deal, I'm sure Trevor Lawrence could call the plays if they wanted to, or you always have, hey, Dabo, I think Streeter will be just fine. And, Dabo will be in his ear coaching him up too. So I don't think that's as big a deal. But the one thing the point that I wanted to make is something that Nelson posted on the Facebook
group
page. Yeah. And it was a tweet, and it was a great tweet. It said, Ohio State ranks 104th in passing yards allowed per game at 261.3 yards. The rankings of the passing offenses the Buckeyes have faced: 39th, 40th, 72nd, 98th, 102nd, and 106th. Clemson ranks 7th. That's a stat.
And that's
throw the ball.
a couple of games without Trevor are included in that also. Right. So yeah,
right. And that's the vaunted Sean Wade and 7.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, don't get me started. I get riled up.
Their defense has a little bit to be desired, I believe, still. So throw the ball. They're going to be quick. It's going to get moving quick. And I think there's going to be some quick scores from Clemson early.
And President-elect is in the comments, and he believes the key will be the defense getting to Justin Fields. Got to get him comfortable. My key is to withstand the emotion of the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the game. Remember last year, Ohio State came out and punched Clemson in the mouth. Now, they had to settle for field goals, which I'll be talking about in a little while, but as one of the other topics of the night. But I think Ohio State's Clemson's going to come out businesslike like they always do. and it's just going to be the same old Clemson. But Ohio State, I predict, is going to come out fired up. How that manifests itself, whether it's a trick play or throwing deep on the first, 2 plays to try and get a quick score, I don't know. But I think that Clemson needs to be able to withstand that initial maybe 2 drives or so without something catastrophic happening, like Travis fumbling the ball into a defender's arms 10 yards from the goal line. So that's my initial key. All right, something a little bit different. The one thing that Clemson can't do if they want to win this game. Locks, you're up first.
You can't turn the ball over 3 times. We've proven that. Versus Notre Dame, you can't do it. You gotta have ball control. And I'm sure Travis Etienne is sleeping with the football. He had a couple game stretch there where he gave it up. It's not like him, and I don't see it happening anytime soon again. I would think that would be cured, but you can't turn it over. Tip passes, they're going to happen. I hope they just down on the ground, but just you can't fumble it. You just can't do it. So that's not big.
Pretty safe. Beef?
Yeah, I think he's cheated on me. It cheated on my work like he did in college, but
what?
I
Work.
I had turnovers as well. You can't be Notre Dame and win the game against a team as on paper we think are offensively explosive as Ohio State is. So we can't be giving them free possessions, especially down deep. That's why I think special teams is also a big key to the game. Is if we do go a 3 and out, which we're apt to do, especially early in the game when we're feeling out the process, that Spires is available to flip the field. But turnovers are the thing, right?
Yeah, it's also mine. I mean, this is really looking back, it's a pretty stupid question, right? Because we all 3 agree, not much diversity here. Because I've said this all year and probably for the last 3 years. If Clemson doesn't turn the ball over, they're really, really difficult to beat. So, yes, there's a chance of a tip pass. That interception last week wasn't Trevor's fault, or whatever. Well, I guess it was last week. Wasn't Trevor's fault. It just happened. And obviously it matters where the ball is turned over in the situation. If you're up 35-10 in the fourth quarter and the ball gets tipped and intercepted, big deal, right? But if Clemson does not turn the ball over when the game's in doubt, they are tough to beat. Okay, we're going to turn it around and look at it the other way. What's the one thing Ohio State can't do if they want to beat Clemson? Zach, you're an Ohio guy. I'm going to let you go first on this one.
Yes, I was born in Ohio. No, I'm from Ohio. I grew up in Ohio. I live in Georgia now. But yeah, I did actually grew up an Ohio State fan until Maurice Clarett. That was about it for that. So Clemson through and through now. But anyway, what Ohio State has to do? Ohio State has to get Justin Fields going. They have to. Justin Fields hasn't been Justin Fields this year. If you look at his numbers, they haven't been great. They have been carried by their running backs big time. And I'm sure the running backs are going to get the ball like crazy. But Justin Fields needs to get moving, dump small passes, get some completions under his belt early, and he also needs to run the ball. If he becomes dynamic, they can win the game with no problem. But if he just plays like he did versus Northwestern, I mean, it could be bad. He really just kind of muddled his way through it and came through a little bit better at the end. But, man, his first half was miserable. He just looked terrible. So,
all right. Beef, what's the one thing that Ohio State can't do to win the game?
I don't think they can become one-dimensional because, we're going to try to stop – I say we. Clemson's going to try to stop the run. Trey Sermon on national TV last week ran for 1,100 yards. And looked really good doing it. And no one, other than the Oklahoma tape, no one really knew that he was even on the team this year. So they had Master Teague, who's a big, bruising downhill runner, and then you add in Trey Sermon, who can do it all for them, catch the ball out of the backfield. You don't want, or Ohio State doesn't want to become one-dimensional because they do also have 2 guys on the outside at least that we know, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, along with freshman 5-star Julian Fleming, who Clemson was big on, that are good receivers. They are very good receivers, and that they recruit well up there at Ohio State. So my thing is that Ohio State needs to, both sides, they need to use the run and the pass, and one to set up the other. And Justin Fields, like Locke said, use Justin Fields because he can be dynamic too. We saw it last year. We haven't seen it much this year, but we did see it last year. So that's my key for Ohio State.
All right. President-elect Sylvester, thank you so much for the comments.
Yeah, he's been awesome.
Really keeping it flowing today with some great information and giving us ideas on the fly.
He's answering my questions for me. Right.
My thing is they can't settle for field goal like they did last year, right? That game should have been 21-0 or 24-0 early. I predict if Ohio State gets within, 2 yards on 4th down, depending on the field position, et cetera, they're going to go for it because of last year. That's what I think is going to happen. If they settle for field goals, it's going to be deflating to their momentum. So that's my key. Zach, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree. I think Ryan Day has probably learned his lesson, and he had probably several sleepless nights after those field goals, because that was really that turned the whole tide there for sure in that game.
All right. Okay, the one thing that Clemson must do to win this game, I'll go first on this one. And I kind of hinted about it earlier, but they didn't need to withstand the first 10 or 15 minutes and not have it be 14-0 Ohio State or something like that. Beef and I were talking about the Notre Dame game. Of course, Beef, Zach, he was upset after it was 3-0 and worried about it being 6-0. I wasn't worried at all at that point. If it would have been 10-0, I'd have been a little worried, right? But 2 field goals, and I was thinking it worked out. It played out just like I thought. I was saying, well, it's 3-0 when they were kicking the second field goal that they missed. I said, this is only going to be 6-0, and one play, like Trevor to Amari, can change that real quick, and it did. And fortunately, missed the field goal. But I had the same thought last week when Coastal Carolina was playing Liberty. Nelson was blowing up my phone saying, oh, my God, they're playing horrible. They're doing this. They're doing that. I said, chill, dude. It's early. And sure enough, they came back just enough to blow the game at the end. But that's the good thing about being a Clemson fan. You don't ever feel like out of a game, right? And Casey and I were talking about this earlier in the week. 3rd and 9, no big deal, man. Imagine 3rd and 9 back in the days when Napier was the offensive coordinator, or Rob Spence. 3rd and 9, it might as well have been 3rd and 50, right? So a different thing these days. All right, Locks, what is the one thing that Clemson must do to win this game?
Man, I forgot about the Rob Spence era. Oh,
bubble screen.
Yeah, just all bubble screen all day, man. All you need. They got to throw the ball, like I said earlier, and same thing, like Justin Fields. Get Trevor started early and just little outs, something, just open the field up, and that's going to open the running game up. So, but they got to pass the ball, get those DBs up, and it's going to open it up for later, and it'll also open up the run game, like I said. So, everybody's kind of forgotten about Travis Etienne. He's all world. Everybody's talking about Trevor Lawrence. There are a couple of good players on this team, more than 2, that's for sure.
Good deal. Okay, Beef, the one thing Clemson must do to win.
Yeah, well, I used your one thing kind of loosely here.
Of course.
Surprise, right? The mouthy one. I had run the ball. We're going to have to run the ball to win the game. It's just you have that dynamic, any one of them. But, of course, number 9 is as dynamic as anybody in the country. Take chances. Take chances down the field with Amari. With Cornell Powell, with E.J. Williams. I know he's more in the slot, but, take some chances and make, as I said before, that Ohio State doesn't want to become one-dimensional. I think if Clemson can take away the run and make them one-dimensional to the pass and let our DBs work and get Nolan Turner after halftime, Clemson will probably pull away in this game. And that's something that I didn't think I'd say. Also, be Clemson. Just be Clemson.
All right. Hey, you mentioned Nolan Turner, and isn't it funny how things turn out, right? 4 years ago or 5, he was an afterthought, and Dabo's giving away scholarships. Now he's out for the first half, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do without Nolan Turner?" I don't know. It's kind of weird how things work out like that. We got Trevor and Travis and all these receivers and 5 stars on the defensive line, and we're worried about the kid who had no other scholarships missing half of the game. I mean, maybe next time when Dabo hands out one of those scholarships, we'll be less likely to jump on it so quick. Okay, Casey, the other way around. The one thing that Ohio State must do, and you may have already answered this, may be repetitive. So
yeah, I'm probably repetitive because that's what I do, right? But I think they need to own the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I think they really need to stop Clemson running the ball. I know that their pass defense is what it is, but I think Clemson is successful mostly when they are successful running the football, whether it be Trevor, Travis, Amari on the end around, anybody, even Brandon Spector. I think that it sounds cliche, but they really do need to own the lines of scrimmage in order to win the game.
All right. I'm going to say they need to control their emotions, right? There's going to be bad calls or questionable calls, I should say. There's going to be things that happen, to them that are not good. They're the ones with all the emotion in this game, it seems to me. I realize Clemson's going to be emotional too, but it's a different kind of emotion. Clemson is focused on the game, just winning the game. Ohio State's focused on beating this Clemson monster that they haven't beaten ever, literally. So I think they're going to have to control their emotions, because sometimes emotions lead to turnovers or other plays that turn out to hurt you in the long run. Zach, Locks Parker, the one thing Ohio State must do to win the game, besides score more points than Clemson.
They need to look at the Notre Dame film and copy it. They really do. They need to cause turnovers and slow it down, and they have the running backs to do it, especially Trey Sermon. I mean, he's a solid running back. They had J.K. Dobbins last year, did the same thing. He was, did good. But this offense for Ohio State's very different this year than last year, and that's mainly just because Fields hasn't played as well, I don't think, But if he gets warmed up, plus you get this running back going, it could be tough. So, start feeding him the ball and play ball control. I don't think they were really a big ball control team last year, especially when we played them. It was kind of, more back and forth. So if they can slow it down, just like Notre Dame did against us for the first time we played them, it could really turn the tide in their favor for sure.
All right. And finally, my last out of all these crazy rounded questions, one for Clemson and one for Ohio State. If Clemson wins, fill in the blank, the star, the name we're talking about, Friday, late into Friday night after we have 73 reviews and 168 million commercials and all that good stuff that happens in football. Who will be the star? Who will we be talking about if Clemson wins? Locks, you're up first.
Hey, Trevor Lawrence. Easily. I mean, I just, between him running the ball, which I hope he doesn't have to do a ton of, but again, pass the ball, pass the ball. Maybe we'll get a breakout receiver, the next Justin Fields. He showed out last year versus Ohio State too. So, but it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to tear up the DBs, I think, for Ohio State in this game.
All right, Beef. If Clemson wins.
Well, I think the obvious answer is Trevor, right? Because this hopefully is his. I know the Heisman vote is already in, but hopefully this is his Heisman. He gives us a Heisman type performance. However, I'm going a little off the tracks like I'm known to do. I'm going to say Amari Rodgers. I think we are going to use the pass a lot, and I think Amari's going to have a big day, because I heard on another show one other day, you can't tackle him low. He's just such a bull, as little as he is. You can't tackle him by the legs. I think he's going to have a huge game for us, whether it's running the end-around sweeps, taking the screens, or even, as we saw against Notre Dame, hitting a long shot. I'm going to Amari Rodgers.
Deceptive speed too, right? I mean, shorter guy, used to Trevor with the long strides, or some of the taller wide receivers with the long strides, but Amari obviously shorter strides, but man, he outruns a lot of people. We're going to have 3 different answers, fella. This is good. It's great. I'm going to go with Travis. I think they're going to, as someone alluded to, I don't remember which one of you earlier, they're going to use the pass to set up the run, or Trevor's legs. I think it was Locks that said Trevor's legs to open up the running game for Travis Etienne. He did he have a big game last year? I don't even remember what he did last year against Ohio State. But I'm expecting over 100 on Friday night from Travis. Now,
Travis had 3 touchdowns last year. I don't know if they were of any length, but
yeah. I remember the one reception he had for a touchdown. That's what I was getting confused on. So I'm thinking that Travis Etienne has a big game on Friday night. And where are they playing, fellas?
Louisiana.
All right. Okay. Flip it around, guys. If Ohio State wins, who will be the star? I'll go first, and I'm going to say, just for old time's sakes, I'm going to say it'd be Chris Olave. Has a big game. And, of course, this could lead to Justin Fields being the star, and he's the quarterback, so they're going to talk about him a lot. But I'm predicting if Ohio State wins, it's because Olave, maybe in the first half without Nolan Turner, has a breakout first half and ends up being the star. Locks, who's your Ohio State guy if they win?
I'm going to go back to it. The running back, Trey Sermon. Kid played great last week. He's on a heater right now. 29 rushes for 330 yards, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns versus Northwestern. Set a record. The game ended on the 4-yard line. If they had given the ball one more time, he scored a touchdown. Would have been a backdoor cover, but that's a different story. He's a great running back, guys. I mean, I look for him to have a pretty solid game.
Is he as good as the guy last year who I think just scored on Clemson again, ran for 75 yards every time he carried the ball?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Beef? Ohio State?
Quick shout out to Charlie Rowan, because this is actually he threw me this sweatshirt.
Wow.
Story for another day. So thanks for checking it out, Charlie. It's actually his team issued sweatshirt. Back to Ohio State. I think it's going to be a running back, whether it's Master Teague. I think Trey Sermon's getting all the pub this week, but Master Teague has been the horse for them all season long. And then Sermon kind of busted onto the scene. So I'm gonna cheat and take one of 2 guys, either Master Teague or Trey Sermon is the guy, because Clemson has been known to give up a run or 2. See Kieran Williams in the Notre Dame game.
Case, you're not very good with limits, are you? Name one guy or
no. Don't limit me.
Say a couple of words.
I'm in sales, man. Don't cap my commission.
Just give me a couple of words on funny.
We thought this was going to be a 20-minute show tonight, didn't we?
I thought I'd be eating tacos and chilling out right now, but okay. All right, guys, it is now time for us to make our picks. And as always, or at least for this year, Beef, you go first. Tony Elliott's out. As far as we know, everybody else is in. It's still 7.5 points. Nobody made there were no adjustments to the point spread. The over-under implies a 37-30 score. What you got, Beef?
Yeah, I think Nelson said something to us earlier in the week that this line has been sticky all week. It hasn't really moved at all. It opened right there at the 7.5 mark, and it's been staying put, which is kind of mean even money's come in on both sides, right? I think that's what it means. I don't know. I'm a novice gambler.
You know.
I do know. I'm trying to. My mom's watching. No, I just what this week has shown me. It reminded me is that back a couple of years ago, Marty, you and I talked about this. One of those games where there's a lot of trash talk, especially from Dabo saying some things which he's not known to do. He's usually all coach speak. Is that, and then they went out, and I thought it was the Ohio State game. I still need to do some research there, but either way, it was a complete. Oh, it was the Alabama game, as Marty said,
44-16 game. Yeah,
that they saw on film that it wasn't even going to be a match. So I just have this in my mind, and for some reason, and because every time I've picked against Clemson this year, they've screwed me. So I'm going to go with Clemson here to cover, and I'm going to put it out there in ether. This is blowout central.
Score? You want to give a score or just
I'll go 55, 51-21.
51-21. Yikes. Yeah, the game you're referencing, I think it was Larry Williams who mentioned that on his podcast. He was talking about they were really confident before that game, and of course it was that Alabama was the greatest team ever, and everybody was like, he was like, well, why are they so confident? And he talked to somebody, I don't know if it's a coach or somebody around the program, that said they knew or they were confident that they could take advantage of Alabama's defensive backfield, and boy howdy, boy did they. So and this year it was the guys on, I think it was Bart Simmons, they covered the podcast, who said, why would Dabo be poking at Ohio State? Yeah. He has to know something. He has to feel very confident about what his team is going to do on Friday. Makes me feel good about that. What's up, Case?
I got a little inside tip. I want to switch my score to 38-17. That's what Houston Burnett told me.
Okay. Wait a second. From 51 to 21 to 38.
No, Houston said 38-17, so that's what I'm going with.
Okay, 38-17.
Unless Theo Mugros gives me a score before the end of the show.
Thanks for all the research you're doing, Casey. Okay, Locks, your turn, Locks.
No lie. I mean, I have not read a ton about this game. I don't like Ohio State. I'm not going to lie. I don't like them at all. I don't like reading about them. I think they're a bunch of whiners. It's just my opinion, not the voice of the other two guys on the show. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to read about it. Like you guys were saying about Dabo, like I said earlier with Nelson's stat, all signs point toward scorched earth. I think it's 45-17. And I think there's going to be at least one, maybe two failed fourth down conversions, like you said, Marty, because they're going to be pushing to try and get the touchdown, but I don't think they're going to get it. I think it's going to be like maybe a midfield situation even too. So they're going to be trying to push it, but they're not the same team as last year. Ohio State is not at all, and Clemson's on a mission looking for Clemson, Alabama, one more time.
That's a great point, because I'm the one who came out and said I thought Ohio State was going to be the best team this year just because of the guys they had coming back. And what was in my memory was them going out there and slapping Clemson around for the first 20 minutes or so of that game last year. And I thought, if that team comes back next year, they're going to be a handful. Well, I've been wrong. They haven't been that team. They've been a different team, even though they have a lot of the same pieces. One guy they don't have plays for the Washington Redskins, and we're all three thankful for that.
He's very good too.
Chase Young. Yeah, so I'm not as confident as you guys. I think it'll be a closer game early, but I think in a weird way, a lot of people would probably think that the pressure is on Clemson. I don't feel that at all. I feel like the pressure is on Ohio State. They have never beaten Clemson. This little old Clemson, as Dabo would like to say. They are, this regal program, but they've never beaten Clemson. And, Dabo's out there talking. So I feel like the pressure is going to be on Ohio State. I don't think they are going to handle it all that well. As you said, they really, I heard something today about Clemson's schedule being soft, except for Notre Dame and Miami, and I'm like, well, they only played 11 games. I mean, and it wasn't the hardest schedule. I mean, Syracuse, et cetera, Wake Forest, et cetera. But they played Notre Dame twice, and they played, Miami, who very close to being back last night. But Manny's going Manny. And so I think the pressure is going to be on Ohio State, and they're going to have to try things, fourth downs, that they may normally have kicked a field goal. They're going to have to go for it. Those could be the game determinant. I think Clemson's going to cover the 7.5. I don't know. I know Locks earlier in the week or earlier today on the text, you said you thought the over was the total was low. I think it's high. I think it's going to be somewhere around 31 to 17-ish, like that. One of the guys on the podcast I listen to says Dabo gets conservative in these big games. He's going to do enough to score a few points, but he couldn't help it against Alabama a couple of years ago. But in general, he's going to do enough to score and win the game, but he's going to get more conservative. Trevor's going to run the ball. Travis is going to run the ball. Yeah, it'll take some shots, but it's not going to be the wild and crazy Syracuse versus Syracuse Dabo game. So I'm going to say 31-17 Clemson. So we're all three picking Clemson. That's a big shocker to me. I mean, I really thought that Casey's negative Nelly half the time, and Zach is from Ohio, and so I thought you guys might go the other way. So
I just can't do it for the reason that Locke said. Being from Ohio and really not liking the team. I have nothing against the fans that I know and love, but the team itself, and that's to your point. So I am going to actually build on your point before we close this mess. But Dabo usually does things when we conjure up as fans, coaches he doesn't like, a la see Dave Doran, see there's a couple of them out there. I have a feeling that Dabo doesn't like Ryan Day. So scorched earth Dabo tends to put it on people, and that goes to my thinking too. Even though I went with Houston's score, I'm still gonna in the back of my mind, I'll make sure to text you when the score breaks 50.
Casey can't even keep it to one score. he's got multiple scores. Yes. So President-elect, you're right. It's the Washington football team. I said the R word earlier. My apologies. Didn't mean for that to come out. Yeah, I don't know. I feel, and I'm not generally a confident guy. I just sit back and watch and let things happen. But Dabo's talking, man. He's ready to rock and roll, and I hope his players are ready to rock and roll because, man, if Clemson loses this game after all the talk that Dabo's had, I don't know. Going to be a long Friday night into Saturday morning if that happens.
I'm erasing my burner account on Twitter.
All nine of them. Twitter will see their numbers plunge. That's Casey erases the burner account. All right, Beef, would you do your stuff while I try and find the exit here?
I sure will. Thanks so much for listening and watching us. Happy New Year to all of you out there. Thanks to our Ohio State brethren in our Facebook group, especially Tom Gladaszewski, Ron Oswick, also Nelson Wilhite for all the help that he always provides for us and the knowledge that he gives me to come on this show. Thank you to President-elect Sylvester Miniea. We appreciate all your comments tonight. Truly, we do. Hopefully we gave you a decent show. Aaron Kahn, Sean Flood, Brian Hutto, the College Sports Network, and everyone on Seldom Used Reserve, Terrence Oglesby, Sluggo Podcast, and Chop and Beef, each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares new and exciting things coming in 2021. On behalf of Zach Locks Parker and Marty, Seldom Used Reserve, Coleman, I can't speak. I have Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we appreciate those Ohio State guys. They put up a lot of crap on the Facebook page this week. Thanks for hanging out and being good guys. We appreciate it.
Theo, too. Thank you, Theo. I see all your texts.
Yeah, appreciate it. Zach Locks, thanks for joining us, man.
Certainly. Thanks, guys.
All right. Next week, guys, we'll be talking about a championship game. Hopefully, we'll have a reading interest in it.
I think that sounds pretty good.